Nou, we hebben net een prachtig soort van mini-symposium gehad in samenwerking met de Universiteit van Amsterdam. En 2 sprekers hebben verteld over mogelijke manieren om een verband te leggen tussen landart en andere kunstuitingen die met het landschap te maken hebben of onderzoek doen naar het landschap en naar landgebruik. And our first speaker today is Emily Eliza Scott. Emily Eliza Scott is an assistant professor in the history of art and architecture and environmental studies at the University of Oregon.
Thank you so much. Before I turn to my PowerPoint presentation, nice to see those of you in the room and also a number of you online, I believe. I want to consider the contrast between land-focused art engaged with and which relies upon what I'm calling vanishing acts, whether conscious ones or unconscious ones, versus artworks that, to the contrary, strive to amplify existing conditions, especially those that are hidden or submerged. So the crux of the desert's appeal, at least under modernism in the West, has indeed been the myth of the void and its twin, the frontier, of a tabula rasa, a depopulated impure space, or a kind of fantasy of a nowhere. And perhaps in our discussion later, after Hanneke's talk, we can speak more about parallels or connections between the polders of Holland and the deserts of the American West. This is an interesting image because it's actually an image of Robert Smithson helping to dig Rift number 1, which is on the right. Nancy Holt, then Nancy Smithson, was also there. That's been largely written out of art history. So of this work, Justin Favela has also kind of riffed or created a counter work. This is 7 magic tires installed in his neighborhood, I believe in Southeast Las Vegas. Many of you have probably also seen this work, which went viral when it was installed as part of the Desert X Outdoor Art Biennial in the Coachella Valley. This is Nicholas Galanin, Indigenous Artist Never Forget, from 2021. This is Amani Jacqueline Brown, who is a London and New Orleans-based artist activist. She's been involved with the project Forensic Architecture, which is based out of Goldsmiths. One of the things that her research has focused on is the extent to which slaves would use these pathways through these kind of rows of sugarcane in the evenings to kind of secretly escape to the forests at the back. And I'll show a few images that she and Forensic Architecture have produced. So as plantations and eventually petrochemical plants kind of expanded in the region, many of these kind of former cemeteries, or these cemeteries, have been sort of gobbled up and erased.
It is my great pleasure to introduce our second speaker. Hanneke Stuit is Associate Professor of Literary and Cultural Analysis at the University of Amsterdam here.
What I hope will be insights on aesthetics, so how things appear to us and how they are represented and how they are formed. The work Polderland, Garden of Fire and Love from 1997 by Daniel Liebeskind, for instance, by mentioning in the work's description that Almere, where the work is located, is a town without history, Liebeskind makes the common colonial mistake that Emily also pointed out of a tabula rasa, right? The suggestion that any piece of land can ever be empty or without history. It is important to mention that these domestic colonies were intricately caught up in the wider network of Dutch colonialism abroad. So what did these conceptual structures around nature and culture result in the case of the colonies, and what was considered beautiful? Neeltje and I have also tried to comment on this. Right, so all in all, this orderly yet idyllic landscape, romanticized landscape, was used to favorably influence public opinion of the colonies at the time. Both cases, like in the colonies of benevolence, this highly controlled, military grid-like landscape was populated by nuclear families from all over the country, and like in the colonies, people were closely monitored when it came to their farming knowledge, their financial situation, their housewife hygiene level, their child discipline, and the presence of a pioneering spirit. There is a strong connection with the pioneering spirit around the desert that Emily mentioned, I think. As I've tried to suggest, the colonies, both at home and abroad, were the laboratories with the exploitation of people and nature, like in the infamous cultivation system in Java, are also still visible in the aesthetic of our polder landscapes.
Ik heb het vandaag gehad over het zoeken naar overeenkomsten tussen de polder als landschap en koloniale settingen, waar met de polder ook is geëxperimenteerd. Bijvoorbeeld in Suriname of in Indonesië, maar ook op het platteland van Drenthe.
Wat me vooral bijblijft is dat vanishing of the violence of representation werd er genoemd. Hoe krijgt dat vorm in geschiedenis, maar ook nog steeds? Hoe wordt dat verhaal nog steeds verteld? En hoe is eigenlijk die communicatie ook vorm van een bepaalde machtsstructuur? En door dat academische en zo'n samenkomst van 2 uur met aangescherpte manieren van denken daarover, ja, dat voedt me als kunstenaar.
What I found so fascinating is that these are landscapes that we just kind of see as natural, that are just there, that don't have a history. And I think what came out really nice is how they do have a history.
For me, having this interdisciplinary perspective on land art, especially from 2 speakers who were into literary studies and art studies, was really fascinating and insightful. And this is the first time I kind of confronted it with this reality of colonialism, especially in the Dutch context. So that gives me a good dichotomy or a good duality to explore the topic in more depth.